Good morning, and thank you so much for joining me for Modern Living with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Chester. I am so excited to have you on with me today. I pray that everyone is doing well, especially during this time of COVID-19. I pray that you are well, your family members are well. If you are dealing with the illness now, I pray that healing is on the way. Well, today we are going to talk about a book that is, are you ready for this title? I love it. All About a Boy Who Was Afraid of the Dark. Its author is an award-winning woman, and her name is Marie Hannon. Hello, Marie. Thank you so much for being on with me today.
Good morning, Dr. Angela. I'm so pleased to be here. And yes, my sentiments exactly to any family, all Americans, for what we're going through now. But we'll overcome the storm. I know that. With God's blessing.
With God's blessing, absolutely, absolutely. I love that everyone is really kind of banding together now, and we're understanding it's as though the best of us is coming out, and I love how we do that as a country. We will not be defeated, and we tend to band together and look for the good in each other. You are so correct. Speaking of the good, you are an awesome author. You are an award-winning author. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, it started a number of years ago with the first book that I co-authored with my mom. It's called Puffy and the Formidable Foe. And it's amazing how that book, which won an excellence judgment at the Writer's Digest 2013 Self-Published Book Awards, now has sort of a new meaning for me because it's about a little kitten who strays away from home and meets up with a terrible, terrible foe, which is something that maybe is happening today with youngsters, going to spring break parties, what have you, and meeting up with a terrible, invisible foe. Anyway, the little kitten has a very terrible experience with that foe who turns out to be a skunk. And as a result, he does move around and scampers away and does get home, but he has to undergo a terrible bath. And the good news is, at the end of the story, he decides there is no place like home. Talk about a book that has meaning unforeseen by me or my mom.
Absolutely. And there's no place like home right now. Let me tell you, it is one of the safest places that we could definitely be. Now, your book, All About a Boy Who Was Afraid of the Dark, which is the book that we're talking about today. Congratulations, of course, on the award for the other book. But All About a Boy, what made you motivated to write about that book? Why was now the appropriate time for it?
Well, I do know that I've always loved reading what others write, and that has made me inclined to share my thoughts, my values and beliefs in writing and also in poetry. And realizing there's no guarantees, I just felt that I wanted to share my thoughts, and the good news is that they have been welcomed and well received. The award you spoke of is from Mom's Choice Awards. Their logo is MCA. And All About a Boy shows how siblings can work together to solve problems. It's a story of a little boy who wakes up in the dark and is very afraid. His nightlight isn't working. And all he can see is the dark, and it makes him start to cry, which wakes up his sister, who's sleeping next door. And she comes in and visits him. And there's a small little piece in the book that I'll be glad to read if you'd like. And that sort of sums up how these youngsters do work together to solve the
Absolutely.
problem.
I love it. Well, listeners, we need to take a very short break, but don't worry. When we get back, we will continue to speak with award-winning author Anne Marie Hannon. We'll be back right after this.
Being with Infants by Montessori teacher trainer and world-renowned child specialist Beverly Kovach is finally on DVD and digital download. The long-awaited 3D disc set is essential for any new parent, grandparent, or infant caregiver wanting respectful relationships with infants and their care. Being with Infants is broken down into 20 easy-to-digest video lessons, complete with demonstrations. Everything from diapering, feeding, the proper way of picking up infants, sleep, crying, environment, play, weaning, and much more are covered. Being with Infants is available on DVD and digital download at Walmart, Target, Barnes & Noble, and Amazon. Order today and be sure to follow Being with Infants on Facebook for free bonus content.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Modern Living with Dr. Angela. I am Dr. Angela Chester. My guest today is Anne Marie Hannon, and we're talking about her book, All About a Boy Who Was Afraid of the Dark. Now, Anne Marie, I love how the sister comes and assists her brother when he is, feeling sad and afraid. And that is an awesome place to be, not just as a big sister, but as a loving friend. And that could teach a lot to, or remind we adults that we need to do that as well, that we need to be there for those when they are in need. Now, when you were writing, were you trying to make sure that there were nuggets of wisdom along the way to make sure that the reader got the message that you were trying to send to them? How did you incorporate not only a beautiful story, but a powerful message as well?
Well, I just think that writing for all of us comes with the idea that we want to share our thoughts. And on that basis, with the story All About a Boy Who's Afraid of the Dark, I just had the thought that it was important to try to negotiate to solve problems, that, as you pointed out, even adults need to share their story, so to speak. And on that basis, we often find others that will understand our story.
Yeah. I think it's in that communication that we find that we are so similar. It seems that sometimes when we become too polarized, when we're looking for a reason to be different, that's all we see. But when we focus on what binds us, what brings us together, do we have a common denominator? Are we moms or maybe grandmothers? Are we teachers? Do we have kids or we want to have kids? There's something that can bring us together, even if it's as simple as let's have a meal. Being able to share in that moment, I think allows us to share our stories, which makes us even better people by hearing what the other person has to say. And I love how you just incorporated that into your story. Now, we have about 4 minutes left in the show, and I hope that that's enough time. You said that you would love to share a little bit from one of your books, and I wanna give you time to be able to do that. If you still like, if you could set that up and then go ahead and share the reading with us, I'd be happy to hear it.
I'm ready right now.
Okay.
This is when Margie, the little girl, opens the door to Patrick, her brother's room, and she stood there for a moment trying to think of something to say. She had learned from Mom and Dad that it was important to talk things out and communicate in order to solve problems and get along with others. And since it was so dark, she slowly and carefully walked to Patrick's bed and sat down next to him. Then She put her arm around Patrick's shoulder and in a very grown-up, 5.5-year-old voice said, "Patrick, don't be afraid of the dark. The dark is something you sleep in, like a nice warm blanket or a soft, fluffy sleeping bag. If we didn't have the dark, it sure would be hard to sleep." And on that basis, Patrick sort of figures it out on his own.
I love that. So reassuring, so kind. What a beautiful thing that a sister could do. But at the same time, I think about even a best friend, or excuse me, how a parent is loving and kind, but so is a best friend, or even another family member in those moments where we're feeling afraid and scared. I love that. Now, when you were writing, I'm going to say that scene of the book, when you were writing that bit, did you find that just kind of came to you all at once? How did you know to make the story go there?
Well, my background is in mediation, workplace dispute resolution, and I had a lot of experience in that. So I understood the power of negotiating. I understood that it was better to arrive at a win-win kind of resolution rather than a win-lose. And on that basis, you're right. I guess it just sort of popped into my head as far as the story in this book goes. Was lucky.
We can't help who we are. I tell people all the time that we have so many various gifts and talents, and when we are utilizing those gifts and talents, they kind of just come out of us. For some people it's leadership. For you, being able to mediate and look for that win-win as opposed to a win-lose, where some people would rather argue to the death than try to figure out a solution. So I think that was a good thing that kind of jumped up out of you. Now, I know that as an author, you're surely not done. Do you have any future plans? Do you have any new books in the works?
Well, actually, thank you for asking. I do have another book that has been published. It's called A Going Home Surprise, and it has to do with the responsibility as well as the benefit of owning a pet. And it's a story of a little girl who finds a lost kitten and how that develops as far as working out a solution to helping the kitten. Beyond that, a new book that will be printed and is at the publishers right now is called The First Day of School. And it's a story of a youngster who does great in preschool and is ready for kindergarten, only mom can't take this little girl to her first day of kindergarten. And she goes through a little bit of problem worries, as we say. Well, all kids have worries. But the question is...
I'm so sorry. I hate to cut you off. We only have about 30 seconds left in the show. If you could please let everyone know, where can they stay in contact with you? Where can they pick up a copy of your book?
Great. Authors Den, AUTHORSDEN.com/Anne-Marie Hannon. And you'll find me there. And I'm ready to talk and share as much as you need.
I love it, you guys. Please go there and pick up a copy of her book. Thank you so much, Anne-Marie, for being on the show. To you, God bless you and your family, and may everyone continue to stay healthy. Have a great day, everyone. Be blessed in the Lord. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.